You've seen the rest, now hire the best. Contact Lee, Cosell, and Feigley today. And now, to address the legal concerns of the community, Praise AM 1310, 95.1 FM presents Legally Speaking. Here are today's hosts.
Good morning, everyone. This is Nathaniel Lee. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for listening to our show each week. It's been a long journey. We started this process back in the mid-90s, and this show became very popular. We covered the O.J. Simpson jury trial with the well-known lawyer Milton Grimes, who ultimately represented Rodney King. But today, I want to start off by briefly talking about the recent verdict up in Delphi with Richard Allen. He was found guilty of killing two young girls, Abby Williams, 13, and Libby German, 14, many years ago. And it was a brutally fought case. It was kind of a weird case. As a trial lawyer watching this case, there was a lot of drama between the attorney and the judge. And in the legal process, the way it normally works, the judge usually act as a neutral referee and the lawyers go at it. But it seemed like much of the attention was directed towards the judge and the defense team. It was just a weird type case. And a lot of times when you have those weird things that happen, cases go up on appeal and they get reversed. And I saw this summary, the lawyer was saying that they thought they had good grounds for reversal of the case. So I guess we have to stay tuned. And ultimately, it was a very tragic circumstance that occurred. Some young kids get killed. And I didn't follow the entire case because it's outside of my practice area. But it was interesting to me in terms of the evidence that I did see and what happened. It's a very tragic situation all the way around. But ultimately, Richard Allen received 130 years, and which means that, in effect, he got the death penalty because he'll never get out of prison alive. And that's a certainty. But in any event, I thought I'd make you aware of that because it's certainly a very tragic situation. And of course, you want to make sure in those cases you have the right person. And it was just difficult for me to make an assessment based on what I saw in the news. It just seemed like there was a lot of holes in part of the case that didn't make a lot of sense to me, but also killing two young kids doesn't make any sense either. So we'll see what happened to that case and see whether or not it get reversed on appeal or whether or not it's affirmed. I take no position on it because I didn't actually look at the transcript of the trial. And but in any event, also, I'd like to congratulate and give a big shout out to first Pastor Moore of Olivet Missionary Baptist Church. He's done an outstanding job again this year, providing Christmas gifts and assistance to numerous people in the community. And I'd like to thank him for his effort. He's been doing this each year. And he's the type of minister that will give the shirt off his back to help another individual. So thank you for your effort. Secondly, Donalyn Biggs. Donalyn has done a fantastic job in the city of Gary, Indiana. She organized and gave away a Christmas gift to about 800 kids today. So it's a remarkable thing. And I'm glad our law firm was able to participate in this along with the one at Olivet Missionary Baptist Church. And the third one, of course, is the famous Ricky Jackson, All-Pro Hall of Famer from Pahokee, Florida. It's giveaway in the city of Pahokee, which we co-sponsor with Ricky this year. And so we have some great things going on because it's the spirit of giving. So I'd like to do a special shout out to those folks who are trying to help people in need. We've seen some remarkable thing in our economy. The stock market is at a historic high. But one of the things, the tragedy is about America is that as people get richer, certain class of people get poor. Kind of the way the country works, it seems like. And there's so many people every day I see homeless people, so many. And recently we had some homeless people sleeping in a vehicle in front of my office. It was just tragic. And you see this on a regular basis, and the government can't solve every problem. And so we as individuals, we have to help out whenever we can. Particularly, we have family members, and I think that my first comment directed towards family members. You shouldn't just care about your family members on holidays. It's 365 days out of the year. And I urge each of you, if you have your loved ones that are experiencing hard times, that you step up to the plate, you try to assist them. And it's totally unnecessary for so many people to be homeless now. We have a wealthy nation, and we have a process in place. I have people come by the office. We had some young ladies who had no place to stay, and I was surprised that they were unaware of the fact that in each of the township there is a trustee office. The trustee office provides assistance for people in their time of need. So if they're homeless, they can't pay their bills, they've been evicted, we have the trustee office to offer financial assistance to you in those urgent situations. It's a short-term fix, but it's a fix. And so before you become completely homeless and out on the street, visit your local trustee office immediately and try to get assistance. I remember one year when we were doing our giveaway, there was a young lady in her car with her 3 kids. And she told me, Miss Lee, we have no place to stay, we have no money, and we got evicted. And they were living in their car. And so we provided enough money for them to stay in a hotel for a week. We contacted trustee office so they get assistance, and also provided money for their Christmas and stuff for the kids. But that was an isolated incident. And the more I thought about it, I said that I was surprised that the young lady was unaware of the trustee office. So, folks, when you see people in time of needs, make sure that you first consider the trustee office for assistance. Now, in terms of legal news, past midnight last night, the Senate passed a funding bill to keep our federal government open, which of course be signed by the President Biden. This was a strange adventure. We're going to new territory. The drama has started with the incoming administration already. We see now the world's richest man, who apparently is calling the shot for the administration already. The House and Senate have worked out a deal to keep the government open after weeks of negotiation. All of a sudden, the shadow president, Elon Musk is what they're calling him, comes in and say, I don't like this deal. And so Republican caved, and all of a sudden we have a self-inflicted crisis. Now we have a situation where the government was about to be shut down for no legitimate reason other than the fact that it was political muscle, where Republicans were told that unless you support the president's proposal, you're going to have a primary opponent. So we now see publicly, the first time that I can recall, where elected officials, before the incoming administration even is sworn in, had been bullied into submission. It's kind of a crazy process going on in American history. And we saw the election that ended up being much closer than it was on election night. The winner got less than 50% of the vote when the vote total kept coming in. But it didn't seem that way on election night. And the weird thing about the election, the last presidential election, there was a group of people who tried to overthrow the government because they thought that the candidate who lost by 7 million votes was the winner in terms of popular vote. And they tried to overthrow the government, and 900 of those folks been convicted of crimes. And they thought that the election did not have any integrity. The election was a fraud. And none of those folks were saying anything this time around when their candidate won. And so that's what has happened in our American legal system. It's just a bizarre thing. We saw over 60 lawsuits filed in the presidential election in 2020 when Biden won. And the Democrats, they lost. They took their lump. And the Democrats, instead of blaming the voters, they're blaming themselves for the loss, which a party should do. You look at the mistakes that you made, you take your lumps, and then you move forward. But the one thing you can do is attack democracy as being the culprit of the loss. It's very important that in American democracy, we must respect the will of the people. In American democracy, you must show up to vote, and hopefully the candidate you vote for wins. But if you're a candidate lose, you accept the result and then you move on. And that's the way democracy works. The will of the people must be paramount. There's always going to be a winner. There's always going to be a loser in every election. If you're on the losing side, sure, it hurts, but you can't let that define your character and the way that you act going forward. You pick up the pieces, you learn from the mistakes that were made, you refocus on your message, and you move forward. After the election, there was a lot of Monday morning quarterbacks saying why they lost the election. They lost the election on one simple process. They lost the election because they got fewer votes. The critical part is Harris, when Biden ran for president in 2020, he got over 81 million votes. Harris got 75 million. So for whatever reason, the people who voted for Biden didn't vote for Harris. So Harris should have gotten 86 million votes if based on population growth and registered voters. So she lost about 7 million Democratic votes who didn't actually show up to vote. And so regardless of how you look at the political pundits, that's why she lost. She got less votes because the Democrat who voted for Biden didn't vote for her. And one of the things that when I looked at the numbers, when I looked at Michigan, the people in the Gaza Strip were complaining about what Israel was doing, so they did not want to vote for Harris because they were upset at the Biden administration. Despite the fact that Israel is an autonomous country, and the United States could only put so much pressure, but ultimately is a self-governing nation, but they blame the Biden administration for the mass killing. And that was a really complicated legal conundrum. In Israel, you had a terrible tragedy. People came in, murdered innocent folks in large numbers, captured them, and held them in captivity even today. And Israel reacted. They did a lot of bombing. And when they did their bombing, a lot of innocent people lost their lives. And it upset a lot of folks. What most people don't consider in terms of how the United States react we need to look no further than what happened at Pearl Harbor. I think at Pearl Harbor, it was a terrible tragedy. Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, and 1,600 Americans, soldiers lost their lives. And how did the United States react? Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we dropped atomic bombs on the nation. The United States dropped atomic bombs on Japan in retaliation to the unprovoked attack. And that's how we did it. So we didn't just go out and kill a few thousand people. We dropped bombs that will adversely affect them for generations upon generations. And that's how we responded as the United States to someone with an act of aggression on our country. And so when I thought about that, I was thinking that people need to look at the history, and when they looked at what Israel is dead, and they're still holding their people in captivity, whether you support Israel or not, the country provoked this tragedy by kidnapping and murdering innocent civilians. Now, the other news story that hit this week was the non-election over. We're still bombarded with Trump type stuff. And so in Georgia, Trump attempted to get the Secretary of State to alter the vote turnout numbers in 2020 election. He was recorded, and they released the recording. And after a couple of years, Trump was indicted along with the other folks who were involved in interference of the election. A couple of people pled guilty. Then the case kind of went sideways for the district attorney, Fani Willis. It was revealed that she had an affair with a co-prosecutor. It was the weirdest type thing that I've ever seen. The two of them had a relationship, and somehow they filed to disqualify them based on the theory that they have an economic benefit of her appointing her boyfriend as a prosecutor. And when I saw that, I said, this is idiotic. This can't have any legs, because it's not like they're on adverse sides, they're on the same side. And the idea that somehow she could financial benefit was crazy. Okay, let's go to the caller. Caller, are you there? You have a question or comment for us today?
Hi, good morning. I wanted to comment on the show, and thank you for having me again. And I appreciate all of you sharing your wisdom and experience. Basically, about the Fani Willis case, I think that judge had no choice but to actually take her off the case. Unfortunately, Fani Willis has definitely she put herself in a position where she couldn't necessarily get out of. Hold on one second. I'm going to change rooms. I got children in here. Can you still hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I'm changing rooms. Unfortunately, Fani Willis brought that on herself. I tried to back her as much as I can, but you know, I understand she was lonely. Those two got caught up in a situation, even though their relationship had nothing to do with the guilt or innocence of the defendant. I think her issue was that she should have never had an affair with somebody in her office. And I said, you know, that there are a lot of men in Georgia or outside of Georgia that she could have had a relationship with, but she chose not to go that route. And I'm sorry that she didn't. So that's the price that she had to pay. She invited these people into her personal life, unfortunately. Do I think it's right? No, I do not. But at least she still has a job, and the case is not thrown out. So I'll have to live with that decision that she made and everybody else. My thing is, if you're taking on a case like this that involves a former president of the United States, you have to be squeaky clean, and you have to be truthful about everything that's in your background, because I don't understand how she didn't think that this was going to be found out. Now, I'm Bonnie is the girl, but those were choices that she made that were not good choices for the case that she was on. She should have never taken the case. She should have let someone else take the case if she knew she had that kind of a background. So that's that. As far as what we're going to deal with in 2025, I think right now I have an underground Facebook group that I'm working with Blue people to start to think about who we can support to get through to 2026. We need to flip the House. We need to flip the Senate. Well, I don't know if we can flip the Senate, but we definitely need to flip the House. So we have to do that, and that's what we have to get our mindset on and not thinking about it anymore. I watched the Ali Velshi show this morning, which is pretty interesting. He talked about how in the UK they have something called a shadow cabinet, and what the shadow cabinet does is it makes aware all of the things that that the government that's in power, what their policies are and how it would affect the people. So they keep them in the know, basically. So I'm really interested in something like that for our government. And that's what they're talking about now, is perhaps building something like a shadow government. Jasmine Cochran has been thought of as one of the people that could be in that. And basically what they do is they take on a committee, or they take on a cabinet, and they put all the information out there, and they put a positive spin on what the Democrats can do. And I think that is the effective way to go forward.
Wait 1 second. Why do you think that Harris lost the election then?
Honestly, as far as Harris is concerned, she's a Black female, which is misogynoir. So you're going to get people that don't want to vote for her because she's Black. You're going to get people who don't want to vote for her because she's a woman. I've always said this, and I'm going to stick by this. President Biden would have won re-election because all he had to do was get the same number of voters that he had before, and he had them. This country, unfortunately, is not ready for a Black woman. They're not even ready for a woman. So Biden had a better chance to win, even with all the Democrats throwing him under the bus for that debate debacle. He was still presidenting. And Harris never had a big role in the administration. Well, she had one. You know, she was supposed to go fix the border. She wasn't a border czar, but her task was to go do something with the border, and she didn't do it. Even if she had to be tough on the border, she could have, you know, there was something she could have done. And I'm not blaming her for that. She ran an absolutely phenomenal campaign, one of the best I've ever seen. However, this country doesn't promote people who are the best, as we know.
Well, wait just 1 second. There's one thing. Let me clarify one thing that's very important. Sure. The border issue was an issue that was a politically created issue, because in order to protect the border, you have to have two components. One, you have to have a judicial system that adjudicate cases, and number two, you have to have an enforcement mechanism. You have to have border patrol agent, right? So that means that you have to have a budget passed to allocate money to deal with the situation. They presented a bill at the beginning of the administration, at the beginning, that never got legs. And then towards the end, they got an agreement. And then Donald Trump then came in and told the Republicans, no, we can't let that pass because that solves the problem. So they use a false narrative, and everybody goes along with it and say, oh, she didn't take care of it, but they ignore the fact that at the beginning of their administration, they tried to secure funding to adjudicate the problem with the border, because you have to have judges and lawyers to look at each asylum component. So you have a record number of people coming in, but you don't have no legal system in place to deal with it. See, we have people, America is a country of immigrants, right? And so you look at this country, all these different folks, other than African Americans who were slaves and Native Americans, everyone else that came in the country, they're immigrants. They're not native born American. And because of that, we have to have an immigration system in place that adjudicate these legal issues case by case. And so most people came away saying that she did a terrible job in the border, and they ignored the fact that there is nothing you can do other than allocate money to hire people to deal with the problem. And that's what the problem is. And so she still get blamed for that, although factually she shouldn't be. And that's the point I need to make. That's very important.
Yes, sir. And as an attorney, you're a very educated man, and you understand that we're talking about average American citizens who are not even educated on the civic process of how things work. Now, what I'm saying is all about optics. What Trump did really well was he spent the last 8 to 10 years saying the same message over and over and over again, even if it was not true. And so the point you just made is that we need a shadow government that is constantly going out there and talking about what these different cabinets are doing, what they're doing, and then talk about that it doesn't have to be like that. But then we have to be like that too. We have to go out there like a propaganda machine, have appointed people to go out there and talk about what is actually happening over and over and over and over again. It's unfortunate, but that's what has to happen. Now, the only thing I could say is that, of course, Vice President Harris was not the problem with the border. Of course she wasn't. But the optics made it look like, and nobody came to her defense. And when I would say about that, I remember distinctly one of the things that the mainstream media covered when she was going down to the border, that she stopped at an ice cream shop to have ice cream before she went to see the children caged at the border. And that was, or the families caged at the border. And that ran for days. So the only thing that people remember about her, because none of the Democrats, in power came up and to defend and to explain what this border situation was, that's what the rest of the country who are not educated were left with. And it's unfortunate.
Yeah, their messages were terrible. Biden had accomplished more during his term as president than anybody in modern American history. Nobody's even close, not Obama, not Reagan. Nobody accomplished what he's done. And there's like 100 different things, and people realize that. Everywhere you go in the country, there's been massive construction. Stock market hit 40,000. I mean, all these incredible things. Job report, jobs for what, 40 some consecutive months. Never happened in my lifetime, that we've seen such
exactly
job growth, and yet they get no credit for it. And now we elect a president who has a lot of baggage, but is great in terms of optics. And then he get the world's richest man to spend $300 million in 6 weeks? $300 million. Basically, you focus that on the.
He bought a president.
Well, now it looked like he is the shadow president. You're talking about shadow government. It looked like I'm not sure how long this is going to last, though. I'm not sure how long it's going to last that you have Elon Musk controlling the Republican Party. I don't think that's going to last very long.
I agree with you on that. I think that the MAGA Republicans are going to bump heads with the Elon Republicans. I think it's going to be like, remember when they had the Tea Party and the, I think it's the other opposing side, and they eliminated the Tea Party. They were gone. That was done. So one of them is going to get eliminated. And I think I agree with you that I think it's going to be the Elon portion of the party that's going to get eliminated, because the MAGA's got more people on the ground who vote, as opposed to Elon bought a presidency by, as you know, by paying for all the ads and false ads and owning a social media site, that platform that actually put out a lot of propaganda. So with the shadow government, I'm not saying the Democrats have to lie. I think all they have to do is keep on this cycle of constantly talking about what is happening. They can't rely on mainstream media to put them out there. They can get on mainstream media and they should flood it, but they have to have their own, like one of the guests on the Ali Velshi show suggested like a weekly place that people can tune in to see what the government has done this week. And it can't be on like C-SPAN, because a lot of people are not going to do that. So they should, partner with some main news station that people will tune into, local, whatever, to do a weekly chat of what is happening in the government that might affect them. I think that's the way we're going to have to go. We can't do the same things that we used to do, but that's my personal opinion. So I appreciate you taking my call and listening to me ramble on. So if you, I'm going to get off and let you take other callers, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next call. You have a question or comment for us today? Hello? Caller?
This is Pierre.
Hey, Pierre, how are you doing today, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great. Just some thoughts.
Well, before you get started, Pierre, what have you done for your neighbors today for this holiday? Are you helping anyone in need?
No, I'm not. I haven't been able to do that. The only thing I've been able to do is help out, you know, some family members and some friends. But
well, that's helping somebody.
Really,
that's what I want to hear. You're helping your family members and friends. If everybody did that,
yeah,
we'll have a better place. But
I
go
was
ahead.
able to give a little money to the Amos Brown Scholarship Fund. That's still open. Hope people still send some money in to support that fund. But you know,
I didn't know about the Amos Brown. He was a good friend of mine. Amos Brown Scholarship. I didn't know about that program.
Yeah, the news station's been talking about that during this week. They get folks to call in and contribute to his scholarship fund, and you just go to the page. It's on WTLC's page, and you just go there and you click the link and you give what you can.
Oh, I didn't know that. Thanks for telling me about that. I mean, this week we have 3 programs going for my law firm. We have one in Gary, Indianapolis, and down in South Florida that we're bought Christmas gifts and stuff for needy families and stuff. So I'm really happy that we were able to do that again. We've been doing it for, I don't know, the last 30 years, but this year we expanded to other cities, and so I was thankful that we were able to get a lot of things done.
Yeah, well, you know, the Trump administration, Donald Trump, the incoming administration's already making missteps. You know,
what do you think about Elon Musk running the government now?
Well, that's the thing. We got President-elect Trump. We got shadow president Elon Musk. So you know, who's running the government? And you know, I think Elon is totally in charge, and I think he's running things. But what we have. How
long do you think that's gonna last, though? You think Trump gonna put up with that? How long before that come crashing down?
Well, he's already putting up with it. So you know, but you know, he'll be in charge. But you know, we'll just have to see. But already, they're having problems. This is the circus has returned. You know, it's going to be a mess. But now, with respect to real quickly, why we lost the election, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, and that is Kamala Harris only had 90 days to run a presidential campaign, which it never should have got there. They just should have left Joe Biden in place. But if it had been up to me, Joe Biden would have never did a debate with Donald Trump. And I was calling the radio stations before the debate and saying, hey, this is not a good idea, because we get Joe up there mumbling and fumbling, and then everybody would call him a fool, and then there would be. And for the life of me, Nate, and you know the vice president's husband, I don't know who President Biden's advisors are, but they should have all been fired, because that never should have happened. But she just didn't have enough time. And in 90 days, she was able to get 75 million votes. I mean, you know, I don't even think she set up an office here in Indiana anywhere.
She did not. They didn't put not one dime in Indiana. But the second thing is that she lost what amount to 7 million Biden voters, and for whatever reason, the people that voted for Biden didn't vote for it. Now, we can account for 1 million of those voters were the Palestinian people upset about Gaza.
Well,
But she lost
yeah.
votes with black males too, and I'm not sure why.
Well, I tell you why she. Well, I tell you why she lost black men, and I tell you why she lost. The Republicans have been able to. I mean, Trump has been on the scene, whether he's been in office or out of office, since what, 2000, since the mid-teens, he's been on the scene. And then, they killed us with that message, and we got to get in front of that message. They had the transgender message, which is really not an issue, but it is. They made it an issue. And then there was the immigration thing, and I was screaming on the radio last year. The Biden administration needed to do a hard pivot. People hate seeing immigrants come into this country, kick the door into this country, and then come in here and get aid and food stamps and cards to pay for stuff and housing. And they're going to Chicago, and they're going to New York, and they're going to these other cities and getting assistance, while you got Americans that are getting cut food stamps and all that, and it's hard for them to get aid. People didn't want to see that, and that made them angry. And for the life of me, I just didn't know why the Democrats didn't see this. I don't care if President Biden had the authority, the laws or whatever. He should have put some troops down there just to stop the human flow. And you can't tell me that the President of the United States did not have that authority.
Well, wait a second. Hey, Pierre, what about this? Let's talk about Indianapolis for a moment, please. Okay, so we have 470,000 registered Democratic voters in Marion County. And I think, I've not looked at the final tally, but it looked like about 210,000 at the most voted. So right here in Indianapolis, we're not a border state. So how in the hell did we lose 240,000 votes here in Indianapolis? Why did these folks in Indianapolis turn their butt out to vote?
I'm gonna tell you how we lost. I'm gonna tell you how we lost, Nate. Same way we won Indiana back in 2008 when President Obama ran. Nate, the economy, people lie. And yeah, prices are high because that's inflationary, that's pandemic pricing, that's price gouging. That's all over the world. Not that so much in the United States, but if gas is 10 cents more in the United States, we'll complain about it. But the fact of the matter is, Nate, you got a lot of people working, man, and a lot of people just. When they're working and they're running from job to job, or they got jobs to do or whatever, and life is good, they just think, well, Biden's going to win, or that's the way it's going to be, or I'm not going to vote for the Democrats because, I'm not as rich as I think I should be, or have as much money as I think I should be, and they just get apathetic, and they just didn't go out and vote. Back in 2008, everybody's 401k was crashing, and people were scared. And the Republicans had killed the economy under George Bush, so they went out and they voted because there was a crisis, and people were scared. But nobody's scared this time around. They were comfortable. People are comfortable, man, and they just. We went to dinner the other night, and the young waitress that we had, she didn't even vote, and and Trump is going to not tax our tips and stuff like that. We got beat. People in our community, I'm talking about the Black community, I'm talking about young folks, they're apathetic. Things are just not hard right now. People are working, and I just don't know how you motivate people like that. I don't know. We get
Hey,
it. The
Pierre,
older
I
folks
talked
get it.
to 5 young folks who didn't vote, and their reasons for not voting parallels some of what you're saying. One lady said, "Well, I don't want to be bothered." I say, "Okay," uh, and then
Mm-hmm.
their reasoning I don't understand. It's like they just didn't care, didn't understand the significance of it. It's sort of like when I do jury trials, Pierre. When I do jury
Mm-hmm.
trials, I remember I was I did all these cases. I did about 30 cases. I had no blacks on the jury pool that came through, and so I had this one case that I had an African American plaintiff and Caucasian defendant, and so I wanted to have some diversity in the jury room when they make a decision on damages, right? And so I had 2 black guys in the panel, and they both said crazy things. One guy said, "Well, I don't believe in the death penalty." Dude, this is a civil case. Somebody got hurt. Nobody died. We're trying to get money, terrorist damages. They would say stupid things, right? They did not want to be involved, and but not realizing how important this process is, right? In order to
Mm-hmm.
seek justice and accountability, you have to have people with common sense who represent the interests of the community on jury panel. The worst thing you could ever do is not show up for jury duty or not vote. Those are things as the citizens of this country that we have an obligation to do to be a good citizen. And they just don't get it. And well, if you come up with an idea to motivate these folks, I want to hear it. So what is it?
Yeah. And another thing is we need to counter. We didn't effectively counter that transgender argument. They were blaming Democrats for allowing boys to compete against their girls in high school sports and all of that, and Kamala's for they, them, Trump's for you, and all of that. That message was really effective. I mean, you could listen to call-in radio stations across the country, especially the black call-in stations. You have black men calling in talking about that. And I mean, it really not an issue. But the other thing is,
Well, let me
Democrats
ask you
need to
something.
stand up.
Did anybody ever go back and actually talk about in the United States of America, how many transgender athlete cases are there in the whole country? I mean, Google it.
No, they didn't, but it didn't matter because
Look at all 8 cases.
Republicans.
Hey, Pierre, look at all 8 cases. I mean, Lord, I'm thinking they sensationalize something that's not even a problem in America. It's such a
But it
minor
worked.
issue. Let me see how
It
many total
worked.
cases there are today.
Yeah, it worked. And when and when you're talking about giving transgender care to inmates and all of this other stuff, they played on that. They played on that. And personally, now Democrats are going to have to say, hey, I don't want men in girls' sports. I'm not for that. And even though it's not an issue, you got to stand up and say that and make it clear that you are not down with that. Transgenders have the same rights as other people, but when it comes to transgender males in women's sports, Pierre's not for that. I'm not for that. I wouldn't support that. And when you run any Democrats running for office, they're going to have to say that, because the Republicans are going to say, yeah, he's for guys playing sports against your little girls and going into girls' bathrooms and stuff like that. No, I'm not for that. And the Democrats are not for that. And we should have stood up and said that. But for whatever reason, we didn't want to. And I'm telling you, Nate, and I get off the phone, look at what's happening in Europe and in Britain. People, the left parties and the socialists, they're losing. They're losing.
Yeah, but hey, Pierre, but you're not answering the question. Why did black males not vote for her in the same number they voted for Biden? I'm just talking specifically about black males.
Real quickly, that's a quick answer. The immigration thing, because they said that, and the New York Times just did a story. Immigration increased under Biden. illegal immigration increased under Biden. And black men see that as competition for jobs and everything else. Then the other thing is Republicans, like I said, got in there with the transgender thing and all of that. And when you put those two combinations together, and then you've got, we just got some brothers that just don't believe in voting for a woman. But I think most of them do. But I think those were the two issues that turned some black men off. Was the immigration thing, which that was a big thing with me, and then they got into the ear about the transgender thing.
Hey, but what about this, Pierre? This is very important here. Under Republican, particularly the judicial system, they've gotten rid of affirmative action, right? And so now, Harvard University Law School had like 9.8% of its class the year before were Black, African American. This year is 3%. So Indiana University Law School had over 20 Blacks admitted last year. This year, they only had one Black law student. So we've seen the Republican policies and judges, if Black males had a problem with those issues, now they're facing a more daunting task. And here's the problem. This is very important. The Black males now are less represented in the nation education institution than we've ever been before. It's the worst it's been since desegregation came into focus. And so that's a whole separate issue, and that I don't understand why people didn't pay more attention to that, because that's really bad, Pierre.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Pierre, wait a second. I need to, hold on one second. I got to get Ricky Jackson to report something. Hold on one second. Good morning, Ricky. How you doing?
Hey, good morning. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How's the Ricky Jackson, your giveaway down there in Pahokee going today? Tell me about it. What's going on?
I'll tell you what, everybody showed up and showed out, man, and I appreciate the help that you gave us.
Well, for our listener audience, Ricky Jackson, Hall of Famer, linebacker, New Orleans Saints, and they're doing great things in the community out there helping young kids. And so the kids were very thankful for your effort this year.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, man, just to see some of the smiles that put on these kids' faces, man, it made me know that I need to go big and harder next year.
Well, I'm certainly going to help you next year. So I appreciate your effort in the community, and you count on me for next year. So count me in, okay, my friend?
All right. But I'll tell you what, though, Nate, the help that me and you give to these kids, man, it just make me know that some of them going to end up being successful like me and you. You know what I mean? It turns some of them life around.
Well, we have to do what we can now, because the opportunities for advancement has been closed through these affirmative action ruling. A lot of people don't realize how bad it is now. We have the athletic things more open to Black athlete, but the academic success has been closed. And so we can't get ahead as a people unless we have more people get advanced degrees. And that's what, we got to push now. I thank you for your example that, what you're doing. I really appreciate what you're doing.
All right, but I'm gonna send you a video in a few minutes and show you, how they showed up, and how the kids were just so happy, man. They get, to get the bicycles and the scooters and stuff, man. And they start riding the day. They didn't. Some of them didn't wait to Christmas. Some of them never held a bike and stuff, so they start trying to ride the day, man. So it just make you feel so great, man, to see people having an opportunity to do stuff that they hadn't done before,
Well, thank you very much, and I'll be talking to you. I'll be seeing you, my friend. You take care, man, okay?
All right, I appreciate your help.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
All right.
Hey, Pierre?
Yes, sir.
Well, with Ricky Jackson, he and LT and some of the NFL Hall of Famers, I helped them raise money to do a big giveaway down in South Florida. And so I'm really proud of their effort in terms of what they're doing. It's good that these athletes they give back to the community and they're trying to do a good thing, because ultimately what we have to do is that we try to keep our young kids, particularly African American males, on the right path, right? And so by having these folks involved in the community like what they're doing, I think is very helpful. So sorry about that. I had to interrupt because I want to get that in.
No problem. That's great program, but and we'll end on this point. You brought up the point of Black kids in law schools and in these major universities. Lack of representation, right? But
well, it's gotten a lot worse than what people realize. I mean, when you go from like 20 to 1, you got like a 98% reduction in the amount of Blacks going to professional school. Now, why is this important, folks? Let me explain why it's important. You can take any community, any zip code. If you take the number of people with advanced degrees, with MBAs, doctorate degree, law degree, medical degree, that community is going to be much better off financially than a community where people are high school dropout or just high school graduate. So you could determine the wealth of any community based on the number of people get advanced degrees. So if the doors of opportunity to get advanced degrees is shut, that means that we're subjecting ourselves to being poor in each community. And that's why this is so important. In my community where I live at, the average education level is probably about, 7 years of college in my community. I have doctors of people with PhDs. And so it's going to be more affluent because people have advanced degrees. They're making more money. And that's the point of this. So for all those parents out there listening, you got to make sure your kids not just get a college degree, but get an advanced degree. And that way your whole family could prosper. This thing about athletics, Pierre, athletics wide open now. Every university is trying to get the marquee Black athlete, but they're not doing that to get the Black student. Why?
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. There ain't no diversity in these other areas of the university, but when it comes to the football team, we're in there, and they love having Black kids on the football team, just not in the other colleges and universities on their campus.
What about Ole Miss? Hey, Pierre, I want you to Google one thing when you get off the show. Google Ole Miss University after Obama was elected. The white student rioted because they hated the idea of having a Black guy being president. And now they have all these Black athletes on their football team. Most racist university on the planet, in my opinion. And all of a sudden, they're generating all these marquee Black athletes. Just doesn't make any sense to me.
Right, but they probably don't have a lot of Black students at the University of Mississippi. I didn't look at the numbers, but I don't think there's a lot.
Yeah, that's really sad. But one final thought before we close out, Pierre. What else you got to say? You got 30 seconds.
No, that's it. Thank you for taking my call, Nate. I appreciate it very much. Have a great holiday. You
too. To all our listeners, this represents our last show for 2024. And a couple of things that I want to say to you. For all the people that called in over the year, I thank you for your participation in this important show. I do this show, I volunteer, and I've been doing this since 1995 for a reason. We get so much news that is fabricated that give you a distorted view of what actually is occurring. And in our show, we try to have an objective standard whereby we give you accurate information and so that you can rely on that information because each of you deserve the respect and dignity of giving accurate information. And so much that we receive now, we're in a society now that's controlled by social media. And now we see that the billionaires now are controlling the content of social media. Most of our kids get their news from social media. And I found out something that was alarming to me. I was down in Jamaica and I discovered that their social media is very positive. Our social media have vulgar stuff, racist stuff, all kind of crazy stuff. And it's sort of like polluting the minds of our young folks. And so, folks, thank you for joining our show. And I want you to realize that this is a time of giving. Look out to your family. Make sure that you help someone in need and continue to pray for our country to be a better place. So thank you for listening in 2024. And this is our last broadcast for 2024. I'll catch you in 2025. Take care, everyone. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. May God bless and keep you. And drive safely, everyone. Take care. See you next year. Goodbye.
The views and opinions expressed on Legally